Hi folks, Bob Collins for Diver Supply, and I am not an AI. I'm here with Mike Wilkins. Some of you recognize Mike from the many videos he's done with me. I'm very jealous of Mike because the subject of this particular video is about his trip to the Galapagos, he and his wife's trip to the Galapagos. So, when did you go, Mike?
We went in April of 21.
Right after the COVID started ending?
It was actually the first trip on the boat that when they opened up, once they started easing the restrictions with the COVID.
And I think you guys got one of the special deals or something.
Yeah, I got an email from the agency that was handling the trip, and it said 2 for 1. So I went to my wife and said, honey, we can't afford not to go on this trip because the price is never going to get any better.
So this was a bucket list trip for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Mike's wife, Margie, hope she doesn't mind me using her name, but she's a very accomplished diver, as is Mike. If you don't know Mike, why don't you tell people a little bit about you, Mike?
Well, I've been, as far as my diving goes, I've been diving for about 20 years. And that started in 2003. I liked it so much I became a dive master, got cavern certified, and then I met this guy in 2014 and became an instructor, and we've been pals ever since.
What got you thinking about Galapagos?
I've always wanted to go there, and I've seen a lot of the, I guess it's Planet Earth or some of those things that really piqued my interest, and saw some of the nature stuff that the photographers portray in their videos, and I've always just wanted to go there and be a part of that. So.
Right. And how long was your trip?
It was 10 days.
10 days? Okay.
10 days on the boat. It was about 2 weeks, with travel and everything else.
So Mike left Jacksonville and flew to
Quito, which is in Ecuador, and then stayed there overnight. And the next day we caught a flight from Quito to the Galapagos.
Flew into Ecuador and spent the night, understand, and we've got some pictures. We're going to be doing some, putting some pictures up and doing some voiceover stuff so you guys can see. Mike did a great job. He's a very accomplished photographer and does quite a bit of videography and underwater photography and videography. So we're going to be interspersing. So this is one reason you folks need to watch this till the end, because there's some great video in here that Mike did. How did you get from Quito to out to the boat?
Yeah, from the airport we flew to the Galapagos, and we took a small airplane where I could actually see out the windshield of the front of the airplane because we were sitting kind of close. And then when we got to the Galapagos, they picked us up at the airport.
Like a rib or something out to the...
Yeah,
out to the
rib
boat.
that they took us out to the boat.
Yeah, and again, we're going to have pictures interspersed in there so you can see some of this. So once you got to the liveaboard, was it everything you thought it was going to be?
That and more.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know what you don't know until you get there.
Yeah.
And the boat was quite large. It had accommodations for 16 people, the double occupancy, and there were 8 of us. So there was plenty of room to move around, and it wasn't crowded at all. There were 3 or 4 of us that had camera setups, and we were able to maneuver around each other without bumping into each other and everything. It was quite.
And I've seen quite a bit of the pictures that Mike did and such of the boat, And of course, I was drooling while all of this I was looking at all this. But it's one of those things, it has a big like salon for
Yeah, there's
socializing
a
and
big
stuff.
salon area where they actually did briefings and historical information about the islands and the wildlife. And the dining area was large enough for all of us to sit down and eat together. And there was an upper deck where you could just go up and hang out. And it was really nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
yeah. The unique thing about, if you've never been aboard a liveaboard, it's like a luxury hotel, most of them. And you know, you've got a really nice dive preparation area for pre-dive and post-dive, you know, configuration and breakdown and cleaning and stuff like that. And so to go out to the dive sites, you didn't dive right off the boat, right?
No, there were two Zodiacs that were on lifts on the back of the ship that they hauled around as they went from island to island.
Yeah.
And when we got to the place where we were diving, they would drop them in the water, or one of them in the water, and we would go out to the dive site on the Zodiac and do a back roll into the water off the Zodiac.
Mike did a lot of video, and again, I'm going to post a bunch of it. One of the things I got a big kick out of was the seals,
Sea lions.
the sea lions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very playful, and they enjoy the bubbles from the divers' scuba units, you know,
Yeah.
and they would buzz us and just come up and swim right in front of you, and it was just exciting
Yeah.
to see that.
Iguanas.
There were marine iguanas. When you see an iguana eating algae under the water, you kind of go, what?
Yeah, because we're so used to seeing them especially in South Florida and such, and the Caribbean. They're on the trees, or on the house, or
Right,
on the
right.
side of the building, and all of a sudden you look over and there's one underwater,
yeah.
eating. You know, it's
And that just shows you the power of nature to adapt to its environment, whatever that is.
yeah. Now, one of the cool things about where Mike went was the island Darwin.
We went to Darwin, we went to Wolf, we went to, I mean, there's the Galapagos archipelagos is about 7 islands. And we stopped at each one and dove because there was different marine life because of the way the current flows and it gets around the islands and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I brought this to try to jiggle your memory on something, and Mike got quite a bit of video. I'll do a close-up on that. I'm not sure if you can see what it is, but
Hammerhead.
tell us a little bit. As a matter of fact, on my computer in my office, I've got one of the pictures he's took.
They would swim by us probably 10, 15, 20 at a time. And what for people watching, what they don't know is that it's a breeding ground for the hammerhead sharks. So the females come down there en masse, and the males obviously breed with them, and they raise their kids. And it's just it's amazing to see how many of them swim by. Of course, the guide who went with us, who's part of the National Park Service down there, knew where the best spots were to set us up where we could kind of sit and wait for the fish to come by.
Yeah. And one thing you need to realize is that there's quite a few of these liveaboards that go down there. And many of them, when you book with them, they pretty much take care of you from the beginning to the time they shake your hand and you leave.
And that was the awesome thing about it. We had a coordinator, and she her name was Katie, and she took care of us from the time we signed the paperwork till the time we got back. I mean, they had uh, everything lined up for what we had to do with the COVID release stuff and getting tested on the way back and making sure we had the right documents going out. So it was really well done.
Yeah. How about, and of course a lot of people want to know, how about the traveling portion? Things like, I've got a piece of Akona luggage right here. This is not sponsored by anybody. Akona just happens to have some good stuff. And but that's one of their rolly bags. It's kind of nice. And then we've got a soft bag up here that's handy to have for your odds and ends and stuff. How much baggage did you and Margie take?
Well, a couple of years ago, Margie and I bought some roller bags that we can put all of our scuba gear in, and if you're just wearing rash guards and shorts, I mean, your pile of clothing is very small.
Yeah.
And that's what we wore most of the time. So
Yeah.
we're able to fit all of that into 2 bags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it is a lot of times you think you need a bunch of stuff. And when I travel and go diving, I usually take 1 bag. My wife takes more, but you know, it is what it is. I've also put here on the table, this is a pair of Scuba Pro's Go Sport fins, and these are surprisingly good small fins, and they kind of incorporate a little bit, and again, not sponsored by Scuba Pro, but they kind of incorporate a little bit of like the rocket jet style fin. They're fairly stiff in the fin itself, super comfortable and small and light, and they use the material monprene that the Scuba Pro Sea Wing Novas, like what we dive.
Okay.
Mike uses them, I use them,
I love
and so they're really good fins. But these are nice and small, so they're easy to pack in your bag and have enough thrust to get and go where you need. Did you take any special equipment as far, or exposure protection as far as that's concerned?
That's a really
Hoods,
good
gloves, that sort of thing?
I took a 5mm hood and gloves that were somewhere in that range. I don't remember 5mm or what, but they had a fairly rough exterior because I knew we were going to be holding on to areas where there was barnacles and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I actually wore a pair of them out.
So make sure you're checking the water temperature, not just the surface temperature, but the water temperature. And when you sign up with these services, they're going to give you a lot of information based on the time of year you're going. They have a lot of information they provide to you. So count on your service, and if you start talking to services and they don't provide, maybe look for a different service. Or a different liveaboard or whatever.
An interesting little story aside is when we decided to go, I told Margie what the water temperature was, and she said, I'm not going to be warm enough. So I bought her a Thermolution electric vest to wear.
Not sponsored by Thermolution, by the way.
Her dry under her wetsuit, so she could stay warm enough during the dives.
Yeah.
'Cause the water temp was about in the 60s.
Yeah, pretty cool. Now, hopefully you enjoyed this little discussion about Mike's bucket lifts dive. He's been to many different places. I think he's got a list still
Yep.
in his bucket. But we're going to try to bring you some of these videos about some of the trips that we make and stuff. So hopefully the folks out there will subscribe to the channel. We'd love for you to subscribe. Again, it doesn't cost you a penny to subscribe, and you get to see more of Mike and of course me. But you know, again, we appreciate you watching. Hope to see you again, and as we always say, dive safe out there. Thanks for watching.